Okay, hopefully this thing is recording. So this is a new camera I have, and I thought, heck, why not make it into the tutorial, because right now I can't really record any games, and I'll show why in another video, but I got one of these Apple Cinema displays. This thing's goddamn huge. It's about 30 inches. The only problem was I didn't get it with the power brick, and if I was to show you really quickly, hang on, let me just set you guys down here for a second. Alright, so apologies for the flickering, but yeah, the cost of one of these power supplies was around about $100 to $200, and apparently one refurbished, because this is a 30-inch display, apparently you needed the 150 watt version of this power supply. But even then, the lesser versions, like the the 80 watt ones, were still around about $100, which is very expensive for a power supply. And I mean, if you look on eBay, you know, not much of a better story here either. So what I thought I did was, I'll show you guys in a second, but what I did was I got an iBook charger and I sort of spliced it in, so I'll show you what I mean. Alright, I know this doesn't really look like the greatest thing in the world, so let me explain what I've done. I took an old iBook charger, one of these cheap replacement ones you can get like for 10 to 20 bucks on eBay, and I spliced the end off, and then I spliced it into the end of this power cable for the monitor, which had this weird looking port. Now I know you're gonna look at this and you're gonna say there's like 10 pins in there. There's only 2 cables. If you look in the other end, I don't know the camera can get that too well, but there's only a red and black cable, and all you need to run this monitor is actually 24 volts. You don't actually need a 100 watt power supply, but I'll show you why you would need a 100 watt power supply in a second here. So I'm gonna plug this back in, and give me a second. Alright, just saying, the reason why you would need a 100 watt power supply because the backlight will flicker the higher you put the brightness and you don't have enough power for it. Right now you can somewhat see it flickering on the camera, but this is normal. I don't really see this flickering. If you have epilepsy, I would recommend you skip ahead the next 10 seconds of this video, because I'm going to show you what happens when you don't have enough power. So, yeah. If you just saw that, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the goddamn camera battery decided to exhaust on me. I don't know what that means, but for some reason in this day and age, camera batteries can still be exhausted, which I thought that was a thing of the past. Kinda why I was using my Nexus for the longest time to record these tutorials. So, what you're gonna need for this, either a power scissors or a good wire stripper will do. My wire stripper, I found that it didn't have a high enough gauge to fit a wire this thick into it. I don't know if you can see that very well, but yeah, it doesn't work. So if you don't have a wire cutter, you can use a pair of any. You're going to need a multimeter, because when you buy a cheap replacement iBook charger, I will not be able to tell you what the polarity is, because everyone that I've seen so far, the wires are different. They can be white and black, like this one is blue and brown. It all depends on the manufacturer that you get it from. So I'd recommend you get a multimeter. You can get one for very cheap at a local hardware store or online. You don't need like a really good one for this. So what you're going to want to do is, whoops, this is a test cable, so I really don't mind if that happened anyway. But we just push that back in. So what you're going to want to do, right, is don't do what I did there. I did that a little bit too deep. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to see how I cut that one end off. You're going to do the same thing for here. You're going to take your pair of scissors. You're just going to sort of clamp, not too hard, but lightly clamp onto the wire and just sort of spin it around a little bit and squeeze it a little bit as you go along. And that way, you can get a bit of a cut into it. And once you get a bit of a cut, you can sort of start just bending it back and forth, a little bit like that, and twisting it, and it should just pull right off. Now, when you have a proper wire cutter, when you have a proper wire cutter, you are going to be able to pull off the shielding, but because I don't, obviously it's going to stay there. What you can do for the shielding is you can actually sort of pull it a bit to the side like this, sort of like flatten it out with your nails, and then you can just take a scissor and just cut it along the edge like this. And that way, it'll make a bit of a mess, but it will work. That way you can pull the wires off like that, pull all the grounding straps, all the insulation away from there, and then you're going to be left with 3 wires. The third wire is a ground, you really don't need to worry about that, but for now you're going to be worrying about these 2 wires here, the red and black. And obviously if you know a little bit about electronics, you know the red wire is a positive and the black wire is negative, or also known as ground. And As far as the iBook cable goes, I really don't know what to tell you because this one's red and brown. I've seen some that are black and white. You really will need a multimeter to tell you how to do this. So once you've stripped both ends of your cable, obviously you're going to want to be doing this with your monitor cable, which is going to be red and black, and then your old charger. You will need any 24-volt charger should work for this, now that I think about it, but I'm using an iBook charger because it's the only 24-volt wall adapter that I've sort of had. So now what you're going to want to do, right, once you figure out your polarity by using your multimeter, you're going to want to set it to around about a good voltage setting, because 20 volts will max out on mine, so I usually do 200 volts to get 24. So you're going to do that, and then what you're going to do is you're going to strip the ends of the wire for your charger. Now, no, I'm doing this with the ends, obviously, but you're going to want to be doing this with the main end of the charger. And you're going to want to hook up both multimeter leads to your charger and plug it into the wall. Make sure you're careful when you do this to make sure both the charger wires do not touch. And you're going to plug it into the wall, and you're going to see whether or not it comes up negative. If it comes up negative, then you know which one's negative and positive. If it's negative, you can switch it around and make it a little bit easier for you, and that way you can mark or make note of which wire is which. And once you do that, and once you figure out which wire is which, you can then go ahead, and my camera decides to randomly shut off again. So in conclusion, all you have to do is sort of test which end of your power supply is negative and positive, and then you're going to splice both ends of your monitor, or your monitor cable, I would say, into the charger wire, which should be easy if you have some knowledge of wiring or some knowledge with electronics or basic electronics. And I would recommend you solder these together, but you don't have to. You could just twist them together and tape it up. I'd recommend electric tape, at least that. And yeah, that's about it. Hopefully I didn't make this too confusing. I feel like I might have. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.